Item number 2 is ordinance on second reading regarding the purchase and sale agreement for the acquisition of the downtown properties. Mr. Schwartz, would you publish the ordinance, please?
Yes, sir. An ordinance of the City of Oakland Park, Florida, approving and authorizing the proper city officials to execute that certain agreement between the City of Oakland Park and Horizon Oakland Park, LLC, for the purchase and sale of real property, more particularly described in Exhibit A of the agreement, providing for the approval of the agreement and authorizing the proper city officials to consummate the transaction contemplated by the terms of the agreement for purchase and sale. A copy of the agreement is attached here to as Exhibit A, providing for conflict of severability and an effective date.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Frastak, is there a presentation tonight?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to be
you.
turning it over to Ms. Renee Miller of Renee Miller Consulting Group, who has led up our negotiating team along with Ms. Anna Alvarez and Mr. Andrew Thompson. I will turn it over to Ms. Miller. Just wanted to note for the record that the presentation she will be presenting will cover both items number 2 and item number 10.
Okay.
So Ms. Miller, please.
Thank you, Ms. Frost. I appreciate it. Good evening, Mayor and City Commission. Thank you so much for having me again to make the presentation about this exciting project. As Ms. Frost said, I'm joined this evening by our team members, Anna Alvarez, our Chief Planning Officer, Mr. Andrew Thompson, our Chief Financial Officer, but also I am joined by members of our development firm partners, Kaufman Lynn Falcone Group. In the chambers with us this evening is Mr. Alfonso Costa, the Executive Vice President of the Falcone Group, and Mr. Jeff Zalkin, the Vice President of Kaufman Lynn Construction. As I discussed in our previous presentation in the July 30th Commission meeting, the development process for the downtown properties truly began more than 2 years ago. Since the City Commission's initial authorization for the site analysis, which began in 2020, city staff, the City Commission, and the community have met numerous times to discuss land use changes for the downtown and the vision for this site in particular. These meetings resulted in the adoption of the OP3D code revisions and the development priorities for this site. In 2021, the city issued 2 formal solicitations for the selection of a qualified developer for this project. Earlier this year, the City Commission selected 3 top-ranked firms for us to move forward with in terms of negotiations and authorized the city manager to negotiate specifically with the top-ranked firm, which is Kaufman Lynn Falcone Group. Our negotiations began early in March, and those negotiations were based on the philosophy that the principles and base elements of the project that were submitted to the City Commission under the RFP would not change. Those base elements and principles were wholly and fully informed by the City Commission's priorities for the downtown properties. The City Commission said they wanted to protect neighborhood quality of life. And this project provides additional public amenities throughout the development. It provides economic sustainability for the downtown. And with respect to quality of life, this developer has committed to limiting the start time of construction to 8 a.m. in honor of some of the concerns for the surrounding community. In addition to that, the developer will be providing for robust public outreach throughout the project in both the beginning stages and all the way through to the end of construction. The City Commission has asked for expansion of green space through this development, and with this project, this development exceeds the green space requirements in the code. We gain our historic tree preservation and delivers us a new green leaf park. We sought to have sustainable economic development, and through this project, we are going to see a private investment of over $148 million. We wanted to realize the long-term economic investment for the city, and the developer, through this development agreement, has committed to an 18% local participation goal to ensure that our small and minority-owned businesses in Oakland Park are represented as a part of that private investment. We wanted to see the generation of new taxable value, and through this project, we estimate that we will see over $24 million in ad valorem revenue over a 20-year period. Through this process, we wanted to ensure that we could enable the development of residential to support the existing businesses in our downtown. Depending on the site plan, this project could bring an additional 319 residential units to do just that. We wanted to seek the creation of jobs, and of course that we know just through the actual sheer construction of this project we will see additional opportunities, but we also know that we will see some long-term job opportunities based on the thousands of square feet contemplated here for new new commercial and new retail, which will bring new jobs, new businesses, and new opportunities. We wanted this project to support the opportunity that we have to have a downtown commuter rail stop here in Oakland Park. And if approved by the train authorities, the developer will build our train station or provide the city with monetary benefits to support transportation in the long term here in the city. We wanted this project to honor our commitment to sustainability. There are sustainable design elements and architectural features throughout the projects, as well as landscape treatments. We wanted to ensure that we had affordable housing provisions, and the developer has agreed to dedicate 10% of the units as affordable at the 120 to 140% of AMI for a period of 5 years. We also wanted to expand our policies as it relates to parking and mobility, and the developer has committed to providing us 195 additional public parking spaces that will be dedicated free to the public in perpetuity. The documents that you see before you listed on the screen represent the enabling documents for this development project. The purchase and sale agreement and the development agreement are the two documents that you see highlighted in green, and those are the two documents that are eminently before you this evening as a City Commission. The PSA and the DA establish the basic elements of the development project. They detail the city's goals and the developer's deliverables to achieve them. They define the footprint of the development site, the timing of the process, and they work to mitigate the uncertainties associated with two major factors that we will discuss. One is the private property acquisition question, and the other is the train station authorization. The other four documents that are in blue listed above will be brought back to the City Commission for City Commission approval prior to the closing of the transaction. But they are the WUNRF, I can never say that right, I apologize, the WUNRF long-term maintenance agreement, the parking agreement, and the train station agreement. These documents will survive the development agreement and will govern the maintenance of these assets far into the future. The final document listed above are the construction contracts, and those are a bit of housekeeping, and they are going to be needed to set forth the obligations between the developer and the city to deliver various capital improvements that are going to be rendered during the progress of construction. I want to take a moment and just go over the overall site. So the map that you see before you represents the full development project as it was optimally designed. You'll see parcels 1 and 2 represent the city-owned parcels, and those are bordered in gold. You'll see that privately held parcels are shaded in pink, and they're marked Parcel A and Parcel B, and they are adjacent to city-owned property. I will note that the site that we commonly refer to as the Omega Church site is highlighted in green, and that represents the location of our relocated park amenities and what we will call our new Greenleaf Park site. As presented previously, one of the uncertainties that had to be addressed in the development agreement was the development envelope and how it would be impacted if the privately held parcels were not acquired by the developer. In recognition of the fact that the city has absolutely no control about the acquisition of those parcels, the city and the developer established 3 potential site plans, which are included in the development agreement, and I will be reviewing in detail later in the presentation. Before I get into the detail of the site plans, I want to start first with Greenleaf Park. The image above shows the 2 development scenarios for the future Greenleaf Park. The configuration of Greenleaf Park is an element of the project that can, in fact, be impacted by the acquisition of private parcels. The image on the left represents the Omega Church site without the acquisition of Parcel B, and the image on the right represents the future Greenleaf Park site with Parcel B. It's important to note that there are no amenities lost should Parcel B not be acquired. The only thing that would be lost would be some additional passive park space. The developer has committed to provide the city with an additional $500,000 in capital improvements should they fail to acquire Parcel B in order to expand the Greenleaf Park footprint. In addition to these configuration considerations, the timing of construction of the park was negotiated to minimize the loss of the amenity to the public. The developer has agreed to construct and deliver the park first. However, in order to expedite the construction, the city has agreed to demolish the Omega Church site in advance of the closing to ensure that we have the shortest window of loss of time for our amenities. As I keep talking about, there are three potential site plans contemplated in the development agreement. The three site plans are referred to in the document as the primary site plan, the alternate site plan A1, and the alternate site plan A2. The parcels that you see on the screen now represent the development footprint of the primary site plan, and those are Parcel 1, city-owned Parcel 1, city-owned Parcel 2, and privately held Parcel A, adjacent to that northern parcel. Conversely, the development footprint of the two alternate site plans includes only the sites owned by the city and exclude the privately held parcel. All three site plans include the same common elements, and I'll refer to them often grouped in that way, but the common elements really are the public amenities that happen throughout the sites, and those are the Woonerf, Greenleaf Park, the open space that's indicated throughout, the train station platform, the public parking, the historic tree preservation, and I will note that that includes a dog park space. These site plans were designed to contemplate and mitigate the uncertainties that are associated with private parcel acquisition, and as well as some of the impacts associated with the train station authorization. So I'll detail first the primary site plan. As you see before you, the primary site plan detail includes Parcel A, and there are three main buildings included in that site plan. The north building is a 5-story mixed-use building with 12,500 square feet of ground-level retail, 8 live-work units, 47,800 square feet of commercial space, 36 residential units, a parking garage, and a rooftop event space. The south building is a 6-story mixed-use building with 21,615 square feet of ground-level retail, 239 residential units, a parking garage, and rooftop event space. The third and final building is a 3-story residential building that includes 36 apartment flats. It's important to note that across all three site plans, the south building and the residential building remain unchanged. So you will see the only thing that will change is the configuration of the northern building in the two alternate site plans. Alternate site plan A1, of course, does not contemplate the acquisition of Parcel A. You'll see that the north building configuration for A1 includes a slightly higher building, smaller number of square footage of ground level retail, a smaller number of live work units, a smaller number of commercial square footage, 14 residential units, and it maintains its own separate parking garage and a rooftop event space. The configuration of alternate site plan A2 shows a slightly lower building, an even smaller footprint of ground level retail and commercial, however, a higher number of residential units, and it still maintains its parking garage and rooftop event space. I do want to note here for the commission that we lose the live work in this particular alternative, but we do again gain some additional residential units. We've provided in the presentation for the public as well as the City Commission for ease of comparison, a site plan comparison chart, so you'll see the big differences across the individual alternatives. But I stress again, the South Building, the residential building, the Woonerf, public parking, Greenleaf Park, open space, and the train station remained unchanged across all three site plans. We've discussed quite a bit the uncertainty associated with the timing and feasibility of the train, and this has been an ongoing challenge throughout our negotiations. Neither the city or the developer controls the timeline of the train approvals, so the negotiating team had to structure an agreement that would include some kind of tiered benefit based on the train station's train authority's ability to reach specific milestones prior to the closing of our transaction. Since the train station approval will happen in stages, so the increase, we've staggered it so that the increase in benefit will happen in stages as well. So in an effort to kind of uncomplicate a complicated matter, I'm showing this chart on the screen. The first milestone or stage that has to be met is county approval of Oakland Park as a train stop location. That has to happen by August of 2023. If that milestone is met, then the developer will pay the city $633,000 towards a future construction of a train station platform or another transportation-related project. The next stage in the process would be for the train station authority to gain federal approval for the commuter rail system and for Oakland Park as a station in particular. So therefore, if milestone 1 and milestone 2 are met, then the developer will pay the city $1,275,000 for the future construction of a train station platform or for another qualified transportation project. The third and final milestone is if the train station authorities receive approval to begin construction for our train platform. And if that happens by the time we close this transaction, which is estimated to be in October of 24, then instead of the 2 monetary payments I talked about previously, the developer will fully construct the platform on behalf of the city. Let me take a moment to go through some of the key terms associated with the purchase and sale agreement. The sale price for the downtown property is $11,206,580. This is more than $1.4 million over the city's highest appraised value for these properties. The purchase and sale agreement contemplates $1.2 million in earnest money, which is required to be made in 3 deposits throughout the process. The first deposit becomes due upon contract execution. The second deposit becomes due when the developer receives final governmental approvals, and the final deposit becomes due when City Hall is vacated. Important to note is that these deposits become non-refundable once government approvals are obtained. At a high level breakdown of the financial elements of this deal, as I noted before, we estimate that the developer's private investment for this project is $148 million. The purchase price is $11,206,580, which is a part of that overall private investment. Also a part of that private investment is either $20.7 to $22.6 million in total cash and or public investments. And that range represents those different milestones that I talked about and those payments that are tied to those milestones. That is the variation in that dollar value. And finally, we estimate that the overall ad valorem value of this project to the city over a 20-year period is $0.6 million. Critical path, we estimate that this project from day 1 to final completion is 55 months. Day 1 is the day in which the purchase and sale agreement and the development agreement are executed. That is when the first deposit will be due to the city. The next major milestone I'm going to jump to is month 7, which is when the development application will be filed by the developer. That's an important date because that's the date in which the developer will declare which site plan they will move forward with, and they will in turn submit their application to align with that site plan. The next major milestone is when, in month 13, when the developer will have to at that time have secured their governmental approval. That's the time in which the second deposit is due from the developer and the time in which the deposits now become non-refundable back to the development firm. Month 25 is the next major milestone, and that milestone is when the developer is required to obtain all of the building permits necessary to construct the project. It's also a notable milestone for the city because that is the city's deadline to vacate the property. Once the property is vacated, the developer then pays us our final deposit, and then 2 months later will be required to close on the purchase of the property. From closing, it is estimated that the developer will take 28 months to move the project to final completion, and that gets us to month 55 in our critical path. I want to take a moment and go over the next steps as it relates to commission action and or public meetings. So we are here today at the approval on second reading and the public hearing for the purchase and sale agreement. We also are hearing today the approval of the development agreement. The next major milestone will be the developer hosting their neighborhood participation before they submit their application for their development review application. Once the developer submits their development review application, it goes through the normal process as any other development, and it's reviewed by DRC. It goes to planning and zoning, and then it will come before the City Commission for approval of the bonus provisions. The City Commission will evaluate and potentially approve those bonus provisions, and once that's done, the only other approval that will be required are of those documents that we talked about that were shaded in blue that will come back before the City Commission at a future time. The WUNRF long-term maintenance agreement, the parking maintenance agreement, the train station delivery agreement, and the construction documents. In closing, staff is recommending today that the City Commission approve on second reading an ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a purchase and sale agreement in the amount of $11,206,580 with Horizon of Oakland Park, LLC, for the sale of the Oakland Park downtown properties. And that completes my presentation.
I was about to say, before you say that completes my presentation, would you please explain the WUNRF, please, before we open the public comments?
Of course, Mr. Mayor, I will explain the WUNRF, and maybe by the end of the explanation I could actually say the word properly. But the WUNRF is a living street, and the idea is it comes from, I believe it's Dutch, a Dutch planning concept that in this living street, cars, people, pedestrians, and bicyclists work together. But the truth of the matter is that the car takes a secondary position to pedestrian and bicycles. And you'll see that it becomes this active, landscaped cooling island that happens throughout, that activates and ties the entire campus together. So the WUNRF is a concept that has been used over and over, is actively used a lot in Europe, but is also used all over this country as this wonderful way of activating and connecting spaces.
Thank you. Madam Manager, before we open the public hearing, is there anything?
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. As we discussed as part of the first reading, you heard Ms. Miller talk about the word uncertainty. We live in uncertain times. What we are certain is we have a partner at the table who's bringing a project meeting the goals that we established from 2018 when we started this journey of looking at our downtown regulations. a major component of this project is the train platform. And that is something that the county, the state, and the federal government are all looking to this city to ensure that we are that commuter rail stop that's designated in Broward County. So time is of the essence. This has been a long process, long public process, and so we welcome the opportunity, to hear from the public, and we look forward to moving forward with the project.
Thank you, Madam City Manager. This time we're going to move and open the public hearing. We're going to ask that you limit your comments to 4 minutes. You'll have a clock here to remind you. Approach the podium with your name and address, and for people who are tall, you may remove the microphone from, or anybody, let me stop. I didn't mean to say that, but people who may not want to bend, you may remove the microphone from the case. So anybody wanted to speak on this item only, please come forward. Just jump right up and come to the microphone. Give us your name and address, please.
Hi, guys. I live at 1548 Northeast 38th Street, Oakland Park, Florida. It's my first time being here, so thank you, Vice Mayor, Mayor, Commissioner, and you guys.
What's your name, please?
I'm Stephanie.
You have to give us your whole name for the record.
Stephanie Waldrop.
Thank you.
So I grew up in Pompano, and Pompano did exactly what you guys are trying to do now. Build a parking garage and a bar and residence and a hotel and all this. You know what happened on 4th of July? It was too busy. My friend and I went to Deerfield
Mr. Mayor, if
Beach.
I could interject, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
could you have the member of the public address the commission and not anybody else?
Okay.
The comments are to be directed to the city commission. Thank you.
I'm sorry. My apologies.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anyway, so the Bright Line is an amazing idea, but it's going to cause a lot of traffic, and it's not great. Like, we have places to go. We have Fort Lauderdale. We have Pompano. Oakland Park needs to stay simple and small. We can get funds from other places. Like, yeah, it's going to make $28 million in 20 years, but, like, is the world going to even be, like even here, or, like, you know what I mean? It's just not. Oakland Park is small, and I tell my friends that live in Oakland Park, I'm like, listen, I love it. It's houses. We have a little small restaurant, this and this and this. When I want to go out, I go out, but I still spend my money in Oakland Park. I still go down the street to Funky Buddha. It's a small area, and, like, we really don't need this. We can build something small in that grass area, like a small, like, restaurant or a couple bars and a dance venue, or build a complex where we can all be together. We don't need all these people to live here, and then a train station just brings trouble. It really does. Like, Fort Lauderdale, when I go there, I have to make sure, like, someone drops me off, someone watches me, make sure I get on safe. It's just not a good idea for Oakland Park, and I came here to tell you guys that, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, you may stand and come forward, please.
You can start the clock. Good evening, commissioners, city employees. I'm Chris Fisher, the president of the Corals of Oakland Park Neighborhood Association. I live at 3711 Northeast 13th Avenue, which will directly be affected, as well as the neighborhood I live in and the association I represent, by the Kaufman-Lynn Falcone Group and the Horizon of Oakland Park LLC project. Something was said tonight that kind of mitigated my spiel, so I just want to get some clarification specifically on the 8 a.m. start of construction time, which will obviously impact children walking to the bus stop, which there is a bus stop right where that area would be, where the construction would be, right off 13th Avenue, to make sure and verify that construction won't begin prior to 8 a.m., and that's every day of the week, not just on a weekend or whatnot. Next, on page 18, section 4.3.1, it calls for the City of Oakland Park to pay for the demolition and the clearing of the city-owned Alpha Omega Church property, which will be the future site of the new Greenleaf Park. The city's staff over the years has been heavily focused on all future earnings and ad valorem tax revenues, so why is the city dipping into their own pocket to pay to clear the Alpha Omega site? Also on page 18, section 4.4, the Falcone Group and the Kaufman-Lynn as Horizon of Oakland Park LLC will pay for only $1.9 million for a future train rail stop. Well, the one in Boca is costing them $5 million. So there's a deficit there. The revenue they'll generate is $148 million. So that is simply a drop in the bucket, that 1.9. That number should really come up. And getting back to the presentation, Renee Miller did a wonderful job on that. The $500,000 they would donate if they're unable to acquire parcel B. Well, what would you rather pay for? $1.5 million for parcel B, or just give the city $500,000? Something tells me they're going to give you $500,000 as opposed to spending $1 million. Next, on page 22, section 4, the developer may consider allowing the city the license to place a communication tower on one of the buildings. Well, how high will that tower be? Because these buildings are already going to envelope the Corals of Oakland Park, our neighborhood here. Okay, it's going to be a high rise, no matter what, or they can call it a mid-level rise at 6 stories, but it's going to cast shadows onto this. And then that takes me to my next point, because this one really just bugs me. I've spoken to many of you, and first off, Mayor Michael Carn, I want to say thank you very much, because I have a feeling you had an impact on that 8 a.m. start. Commissioner Rosenwald, I know I've spoken to you both about that 8 a.m. impact within our neighborhood, so thank you very much if you did have an implementation into that. But the shadowing effect of this whole situation, Commissioner Rosenwald, we spoke yesterday about you sitting down, just like all you commissioners do, Commissioner Boland as well, who's not here right now, and have a one-on-one meeting with our city manager prior to holding these commission meetings, right? That allows you to be able to go over the agenda, you can discuss it, and go through it. But my big thing is, as I understand, he has told people, at least one commissioner that I know of, that a shadow study has already been conducted for this building project, the Kaufman Lynn Group and Falcone Group project. But that can't be possible, because I've spoken to 2 city employees who work directly under the city manager, and they say that step isn't even there yet. So I want to know, who's getting it wrong here? Is it the city commissioner, or is it the city manager telling people that the shadow study's already been conducted? Or is it the city staffers?
10 seconds.
Ultimately, the city staffers, you commissioners, you build your resumes off these type of things. But for us that live here, they're going to have the dust and the shadows going on with this project. Please keep us in mind. Don't just pay attention to future
That's
taxpayers.
time. That's 4 minutes.
Pay attention to current taxpayers, please.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker may come forward, please. Please give us your name and address, please.
My name is Carlos Ferrer. I reside at 4371 Northeast 13th Avenue. Good evening, Commissioners. I have been a resident of the City of Oakland Park for 45 years. In these 45 years, I have witnessed many changes to our city. When this project was first announced, I must admit, I was excited at the possibility of growth and bringing a little excitement to the downtown area. From my experiences, our community is small, yet growing, and we carry a lot of pride for our city. The small town feel Oakland Park has provided is the reason most I've come to know have decided to make this their new home. That small town is slowly dying. Which brings me to my concerns with the Kaufman Land Falcone Group and Horizon of Oakland Park project. The city manager clearly has a vision for the future of this city, but at what cost? And to whom's benefit? There is room to grow and create opportunities and bring excitement into this city without losing the heart of what Oakland Park is and what Oakland Park should be. Are we listening to our people, our community, or are we building legacies and padding resumes to go hang out with the big boys? The transparency when it has come to this plan, which continues to evolve day to day, has been barely existent. Promises are being made and assurances are being made to the community, but they seem like lip service for the ones that aren't really paying attention. There are talks of a train station and the benefits we will see from this, but the train station is not a guarantee, yet we are moving forward as if we have some insider knowledge that it will be true. We are forcing people from their homes to acquire more property in the name of growth for the city. We are forcing businesses to move or close to provide more space for just a couple more floors, because think of all those tax dollars. And don't worry about the additional stories, as we're giving you green space, citizens. The city has made it so hard for new businesses to come into the city now, today, holding up permits, refusing signage. How are we to expect to have these new promised retail spaces filled? It feels as though the city manager's plan is very deliberate, and if you fit into it, great. We will welcome you with open arms. If not, red tape until you run out of money. So what is the plan, and who fits in? Doesn't feel like this community does anymore. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, you may rise and come forward, please. Please give us your name and address. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dale Janney. I'm at 4130 Northeast 16th Terrace. I'm also a small business owner right next door at 3558 Northeast 12th. I'm a small business, wanted to relocate. I was in Fort Lauderdale before, but I really liked this downtown section and decided to go ahead and invest in Oakland Park again. And for my business for about a year. The changes that I've seen in this downtown area are so nice, and I'm here to say that I love the direction things are going. And even though people have concerns about this building, it is literally right next door to my business, literally two spaces away. And I think the design and the whole concept of the thing is wonderful. I think it has been very transparent, which I've been following along and don't understand why people would have a complaint, because I found access to be easy. Everything that I had concerns with have been addressed. And so I just wanted to say thank you for all the work. And with the development team, I wholeheartedly support this project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please rise and come forward. Hurry, please rise and come forward. Thank you. Give us your name and address, please.
I thought that there would be more people who wanted to speak.
Give us your name and address, sir.
Jack
Give your
Doran,
breath.
4529 Pinehurst Trail West in Oakland Park.
Mr. Doran, why don't you step away from the microphone because you've already used time. There's a gentleman that wanted to jump up.
Oh,
We'll give you
great. I
time to
thought
queue
one
up
of
your
us wanted to speak.
presentation, okay? Well, his time has been taken up by him trying to queue up his presentation. Sir, would you please come? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Efren Machado. I live nearby.
Wait till you get to.
1401 Northeast 35th Street.
We're on recording. That's why we want you to speak in the mic.
Okay.
Thank
Did you
you.
hear any of that, though? Should I start over?
You should speak it into the mic, yes.
Okay. Hello, my name is Efren Machado. I live here at 1401 Northeast 35th Street.
Thank you.
I recently moved here from Miami. Obviously, like a bunch of people here, we love this town. It's definitely a hometown feeling. And for me, the biggest part of this whole development is the size of it. You know, having 6 stories, I don't know if you guys realize how tall a 6-story building is. Do you guys, if you know, it's easily 90 to 100 feet tall. So now all the other buildings in this neighborhood are 2 stories, basically. All of Main Street, it's a charming city, charming town with all the lights. And now we're going to have 2 towers here. I printed out, these are photographs of 6-story buildings, okay? This is what we're going to look like. Do you think this belongs here in Oakland Park, right on Main Street? Everyone, you want to see this? This is what 6 stories looks
Sir, you have to limit your speaking into the microphone.
Okay, so this is what's, I just think you guys need to redesign this thing. It doesn't have to be 311, 319 residents. It needs to be scaled down. And we all like progress, but I think it needs to be more what the people want here in Oakland Park. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Machado. Mr. Doran, you may.
Sorry about that before. I just flew in from the airport. Good evening. Tonight is a milestone in a process that began years ago to revitalize our downtown.
Mr. Doran, I have to ask you to start over with your name and address.
Sure.
So
Jack
the record-
Doran, 4529 Pinehurst Trail West. There have been a bunch of community meetings on the subject, as well as presentations at various stages at a bunch of commission meetings. Many of them in this transparent process included opportunities for input from residents and business owners. The vision of this goes back to 2005. This project will revitalize our downtown. It will provide residences and business space along with open green space, retain the revered historic tree, and provide even more recreational and playground area than is current. It will offer walkable, charming areas known as Woonurf areas, and will provide foot traffic in our downtown, which is much needed to support a thriving downtown business community. There are no high-rises in this plan. I've not heard from anyone, staff, commissioners, or residents, that want downtown Oakland Park to look like downtown Fort Lauderdale, including me. The mixed-use mid-rise, well, I won't go through this. This is repeating what was in the presentation earlier. As shown in independent surveys, this project has strong support from residents and businesses, although there are some residents who don't support it. Some want Oakland Park to retain its identity as a small, quaint town. Whereas this has its charm, this, in my opinion, is not sustainable. Such quaint towns have an established, thriving small business community. I hear from ours how many suffer from insufficient foot traffic. Also, a downtown can't be viable if it closes up after 5 p.m. People have to live here in the heart of it. This makes it alive and develops a sense of community. Oakland Park has gained the respect and admiration of residents in our surrounding cities. We can be proud of all the work and vision of our commission and city staff led by our city manager. As a resident, I am so grateful for their devotion and love of Oakland Park and for all they have done and are doing to make our city blossom. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. You have to come or we have to close. Thank you. You may take it off the stand.
Yeah, let me put this a little bit up here. My name is Carlos Ortega. I live on 3481 Northeast 15th Avenue. And I'm coming here with a lot of our neighbors that we've discussed this for a couple of months, going to city meetings and also going to resident meetings discussing this matter. And it comes to me, this shows me that there's a disconnect between the commissioners and the residents here of Oakland Park. We've talked to hundreds of people here that are residents in our community here, and nobody wants this. Like I said, some of our neighbors here, we just moved here almost 2.5 years ago. We love it. And we love the idea of having a downtown where there's going to be restaurants and people can go out there and sit down. We bring our friends to support our businesses here, our restaurants, all along the strip here. But this is just too much. This is going to be an eyesore to our community and our residents. It just seems like you don't care. You don't care about the residents that live in this community. Because if you guys understand, I think you're the only one who lives closer to this neighborhood, and you've supported us in the past. But everybody else here doesn't seem like they care. I mean, what do we need to do to understand that we don't want this? This is going to affect our residents and our community. Let's talk about the wall that you guys approved during COVID. A 10-story building that is an eyesore. You drive down US 1 and it looks like a wall. 10 stories, and we still don't know how many apartments there are. I've tried to look online to see how many apartments, and not to mention the parking garage. It's all the way on Oakland Park Drive. I mean, was there any thinking to doing that? How is that going to affect? That's going to be there for 100 years. It's done. Let's go to Sprouts. That complex. That one was approved during COVID as well. That hasn't been finished yet. The other one, the wall hasn't been finished yet. We don't know the effects of all the vehicles. Probably, we're talking about 1,500 vehicles if you add how many people live in each of these apartments. How is that going to affect our Oakland Park Drive? Getting to work, coming back to work. This is what happens to all the problems in the cities. They had these master programs. And you want to approve this without knowing how that's going to affect the rest of the community here? How is this possible? There's no thinking going on here. And you really guys have to think that you guys are elected to follow our wishes. How are you guys approving this and we don't even know what's going to happen with these other constructions and how that's going to affect our community. You guys really need to think about that. I know the developers you're ecstatic, but we're not ecstatic at all. We don't want this. I don't understand the logic of spending millions of dollars building a city hall across the street to replace a city hall that was built in the middle 90s. So a developer can move in here and build this 300-plus unit to benefit Funky Buddha. Does that make sense? That's not benefiting the community at all. So I hope you guys vote no on this and put this in a table until we see the effects of what all these constructions that are not even finished yet are going to affect the city of Oakland Park. And what if you really ask the residents of Oakland Park what they want to be able to come downtown and experience restaurants, brings friends over here. We support the city. All of our friends that come into the neighborhood. And I hope you vote no on this and put this on the table and show that the residents that you care and are listening to them.
That's time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please come forward. Next speaker, please come forward. Next speaker, please come forward. Yes. Thank you. Please give us your name and address, please, to begin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if I'm the next speaker, but I am a speaker.
Thank you.
I just walked in off the street. I have to ask for your forgiveness. I'm doing a little health walk, and I'm a new resident of Oakland Park, my wife and I.
Give us your name and address,
The
please.
vice mayor knows me. I'm Tim Smith. I'm the former vice mayor of Fort Lauderdale.
Mm-hmm.
I've now become an Oakland Parkian, and I'm just loving it. So I'm walking by, and I see some traffic, and I asked the officers, is it a city commission meeting? They said yes. I said, oh, crap, I'm doing a little health walk, and I had a couple beers, but I'm coming in to say my piece.
Would you give us an address for reference for the record,
Yes,
please?
we live at 1015 Northeast 39th Street. It's right over here. And I did contact you, invite you to my son's grand opening of the #1 thrift store in Fort Lauderdale, Oakland Park, called Oddballs, which is right here. And the vice mayor did agree to come, but she was in a wake, and it was a little late. She couldn't make it. So not only did we bring our business to Oakland Park, but we moved, my wife and I. After 35 years in Fort Lauderdale, we came to Oakland Park, and we love it. And there's so much that can happen right here. And you guys can make it right or not. So when I was the vice mayor of Fort Lauderdale, I represented the tough area, 13th Street, Flagler Village. It was all crime-ridden, crack, all that. And I was in favor of redevelopment, and I still am. And that area is now trendy and expensive. Some people complain about it. Personally, it is so much better than when I walked like this down the street in the 90s. I would have to run sometimes from people. So that has changed. This is changing. There's a lot of reasonable concern in this community, people that put their entire net worth into this community. They're worried about big buildings, a lot of traffic, Dixie Highway. It's reasonable concern. So all I can say to you guys is I spent a lot of time in public service, and I love y'all for doing what you do. And this thing should pass, and you should build it. But you should make sure that all the good things can come from it. And there are developers will drag you down the pike and not give you all that you deserve. So you should say to them, we're thrilled that you're here to build this, but we need Dixie Highway to be more usable, slower, more reasonable, better turns, whatever it is. You guys know more than I do. You should say, do we have the right amount of parks, developers? Maybe you got to throw in an extra $1 million because we got to do some, softscapes or this or that or the other. So I'm sorry to waste your time or, come up here not prepared, but my opinion and my wife's opinion, I'll be 66 years old next week. we're having a benefit for Ukraine at my house, my brand new house, with its brand new swimming pool. And thank you, Oakland Park, for letting me be here and do all that. So please pass this, but don't just give it to them. Tell them, okay, we love this, you're going to build it, but these are the things we need, and they will give it to you.
10
I have
seconds.
experience, okay? Vice Mayor, we're going to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please come forward.
Sam DeLito, 1501 Northeast 39th Street. Thank you, first of all. Something needs to be done with the development of this property, yes. But I feel like when you sell it, you lose control of it. And we love our small town, and there are small towns in this country that are viable. Look at Winter Park, Carmel. We don't have to try to be somebody else. We bought here because we liked it here. If we change it to be someone else and somewhere else, we're changing the ability for the people to live here. There's going to be so much impact just if we're putting foot traffic in this area, looking at the project, there's going to be so much foot traffic. You have to budget for more police, more infrastructure, more security. I don't know if we want that here. I don't want a train station here with vagrants coming through and transient people. We want it to be a home town. Please take that into consideration. You know, we want some kind of development, but I don't know if this is the right one. So I think we're shooting in the wrong direction here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Please give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Jeff Barnes. I live at 3401 Northeast 17th Avenue, right here in the Corals. I am a founding member, past president and past vice president of the Corals of Oakland Park Neighborhood Association. That organization was founded with my friend, Commissioner Mitch Rosenwald, who was the original president, along with Scott Ravelli, vice president, and several other board members. I was at home watching this tonight, and I'm incensed by the lies of people that I have no idea who they are. I only resigned as president of COPNA a little over a year ago. I have every record of every person who was a member up until the time I left, and I don't recognize any of the people here except for Chris Fisher, who took over after I left. So I want to set the record straight that Mitch Rosenwald, when he was president of COPNA, myself, Scott Ravelli, Don Beal, we met with all of you in 2017 and brought our concerns about this development, which was proposed then. This didn't just happen yesterday. We had 60-plus members in COPNA at that time. All those records are available for review. We listened to our members at meeting after meeting after meeting about their concerns, similar to what I've heard tonight. Mostly was the tree, the park, the amenities, the library. Unfortunately, we lost the battle for the library, but we did win on the other concerns that were brought to us as the board at that time. One being that we wanted an increase of park space, and we did not want to lose any of the park amenities. This plan gives us just that. We won. The second thing that we asked for was the preservation of that tree, and that was a fight. And Mitch Rosenwald, he brought that fight to David Hebert, and we won that fight. We also wanted to expand the actual square footage of the park space to add the additional requirements for some type of traffic deadening along 12th, which they've brought with this Werfel. Anyway, what I'm about to say is that of the list of things, and there was a long list that we took to David Hebert and to this commission in private conversations about our concerns and what we wanted to see if a development was done. We won every one of those except for the library. And we were disappointed in that. But we did bring those concerns to the city. Everyone who was a member of COPNA from the beginning, those 60 plus people, they know that. And if people who have moved here since then are unaware and uneducated of the history of what this organization did in the past to get us to this point, then that's what I'm here for. Because I will not have the reputation of COPNA be besmirched because the current board did not develop this organization. Our number one concern from the get-go was the preservation of quality of life in this part of the town. I live right here. I can walk. Lived right here down the street at the Point.
10 seconds.
So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention here, that there is a history of residential involvement and of COPNA involvement, and that this is not something that just got sprung up overnight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any more speakers? Please come forward. Ms. Greco, do we have anyone online?
Yes, we do, and we have 2 comments.
Thank you.
Mr. Steve Arnst? Mr. Steve Arnst?
Mr. Arnst, are you muted?
I unmuted.
Can you advance to the next person? He may come back.
Melissa Campbell?
Go ahead and read your, let's start reading, and then we can come back.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dean Serlnick, downtown partner, property owner, and supporter of the purchase and sale agreement and development agreement of the city-owned properties. Since 2005, for 17 years, the city has worked diligently and tirelessly to improve the city of Oakland Park, particularly in downtown. For many more years, downtown has consisted of neglected buildings, vacant storefronts, and few job opportunities, and is still struggling to sustain itself. Under the strategic direction of our city manager, his staff and his commission, business, property owners, and residents are finally starting to see the years of hard work and dedication that the city has shown towards bringing the city's vision into reality, and we are very grateful for and happy about this. Downtown has always been downtown. 5 to 6 story buildings have always been permitted along the Dixie Corridor or on both sides of the track. Redevelopment and revitalization of the downtown has been the vision of the city since 2005. The size and scale of the projects recently passed and which are being proposed tonight have always been permitted under downtown's code of ordinances. Unfortunately, until now, no large-scale developers have been willing to come to downtown or been given the opportunity to develop here. Finally, the city's vision is coming to life, and it is well-deserved. For those of us who have invested in downtown, improved properties, brought jobs to the area, increased the city's tax base, all while continually to struggle to keep retail space occupied, the city's strategic plan to develop the Sky Building, fight for a train station, and redevelop the remaining city-owned properties are what the vast majority of residents, businesses, and property owners want and deserve. To this commission, please vote in support of these agreements to develop the city-owned properties and solidify our city's future. Scott Ravelli, 3401 Northeast 17th Avenue, Oakland Park. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and City Manager. I first came to Oakland Park as a tourist in 1986. I made a few small real estate investments around 2004 and purchased my home in the Corals neighborhood in 2014. I've been a realtor for over 25 years, a former hotel owner, businessman, and investor. I've been appointed to multiple city, county, and state boards focused on business, city planning, and economic development. Before making my decision to call Oakland Park my home, I did a lot of homework. I was impressed by the progress made through grassroots efforts and a non-TIF funded CRA using grant funds for downtown improvements. I imagined what the highest and best use of a downtown I could walk to would look like with strong leadership, proper planning, local support, and good partners. Tonight's vote could help make that vision a reality. I am especially grateful to the city manager, city staff, and all those who painstakingly worked for many years to make a project like this possible. The level of transparency, community input, and patience to rezone the district to make a project like this compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods has been unparalleled to any other community I've lived or worked in. Remind folks tonight who say they were unaware or were not invited to participate of the Notify Me function of the city website so they can be more informed and engaged moving forward. I support the purchase and sale agreement and urge you to vote on this item. Respectfully, Scott Ravelli.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Could you do one last mic check for the two speakers who...
Steve Arnst.
They can hear him on Zoom, just so you're aware.
Okay, and he's not coming across here.
He's not coming into the chamber.
No.
Who else is it? How do we rectify
Melissa Campbell.
Would you allow him to call somebody and put him to the microphone, perhaps?
I don't have his phone number.
The floor is still open, yes. Please give us your name and address, please.
Dawn Beal, 4430 Northeast 19th Avenue. I've lived here for 28 years. I love Oakland Park. My husband's born and raised in Fort Lauderdale, and so we've seen quite a bit of change. I don't think, we're not against the development, or at least I'm not. I think it's the height that we're concerned about that will impact the neighborhood, and also the impact of so many units of cars. If you have over 300 units, 2 people in a household, it's 2 cars, it's 600 more cars impacting our roadways. And as you know, it's getting harder every day to commute through Fort Lauderdale and downtown and things. And also, our infrastructure as far as our sewers and things like that, what it's going to impact there. So that's my big concern. Also, when they mentioned a rooftop event space, which is really beautiful. However, as a meeting planner and everything, I know having that so close to a neighborhood and noise level and things like that, I'm sure it'd be beautiful, but how it would be managed and, the noise ordinance on that is something to take into, and who would be able to use that? Is it anybody could rent that, or is it just the people that live in the building? Those are things that you need to take into consideration as far as a rooftop event space. So that's all, my thought. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Steve Arnst.
We can pick him up again in public comments. Well, I just don't want to delay the meeting. We have a big agenda tonight. So I apologize for any technical difficulties for those who were not able to come into the chamber. At this time, we're going to close the public hearing, and thank you for such an active public hearing tonight on tonight's item. Before we move on, Ms. Frastai, is there anything else from staff that you'd like to?
No, not at this time. I did want to, Commissioner Boland is also unable to communicate, so if you can just bear with us and see if we can rectify it.
Ms. Greco, give us a signal and we'll resume our meeting.
We're ready.
Thank you.
It's recording.
We have now returned from our technical difficulties situation. Thank you for your patience. We were on agenda item number 2, the purchase and sale agreement We had just concluded the public hearing. Could we check again to see if Mr. Steve Arnst was able to chime back, if he circled back, and the other speaker, I forget her name.
A caller on the line. I don't know who it is, though.
Would you ask him to identify? Please.
Phone number 561-512-7790. They left.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to officially now. Yes, ma'am. Yes, okay. But she's not. Thank you for the reminder. Is Ms. Campbell still there? Okay, thank you. We will now move and close the public hearing. Ms. Frastai, we're going to give you the last opportunity before we turn this over to the commission. Was there any last words?
So I thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I really appreciate the perspective of the residents and coming out and the personal experience. So we wanted to recognize that, and we appreciate that. This process has been going on for quite some time, since 2018, when we first started looking at the downtown regulations. Like indicated today, we had been meeting with the community for quite some time, and we were able to provide all the communities and meet the community's needs except for the library, which we are moving to one of the most dire needs of the city to provide those services. So we appreciate this is just the beginning of the process as we move forward. We will still continue to go through the Development Review Committee process where we will have additional public input. Our staff is available to answer any questions. I do want to take the opportunity to thank Ms. Renee Miller, Mr. Andrew Thompson, and Ms. Anna Alvarez, who have been working tirelessly to make sure that the city is represented to the fullest extent and make sure that the needs and requests of the community have been met through the agreement. So we are here to answer any questions, and we look forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Madam City Manager. Commissioners, Commissioner Boland, why don't you start us off?
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to confirm you can hear me.
We can, thank you. Very loud and clear.
Thank you. Okay, great. So I do want to thank all the residents who came out. A bit of a surprise because I hadn't heard from many, but I know that myself and the entire commission has always been available, and this process has been going on for some time. I would say, without a doubt, this project has brought into all of the community's concerns that were articulated to us over time. And you heard that from some of the speakers. I think the most important thing here is this is not some sort of giveaway to a developer. This is not just about creating tax roll property taxes for the city. This is about creating the driver for our downtown and for our city. And, you know, the way this has been structured was really quite brilliant. Not only are we receiving more than the appraised value by $1.4 million, we've also restructured the deposits in such a way that they become non-refundable. We've considered every possible angle on this. And this is not just picking a developer. And I know that in sort of the critical mass of South Florida, there's a lot of concern coming from other cities. Headlines like, we don't need Dubai, but we are not Fort Lauderdale. This is Oakland Park. And the businesses in the downtown uniformly know that to create a walkable city and to drive the kind of traffic, we needed a bit of density in the downtown. And the fact that the train station is an opportunity that, of course, yes, we do not know for sure, but all indications are going that direction. And, this is not something that happened overnight. This is something that has been a long-term project. And I understand the concerns of neighbors, but certainly I hope all the neighbors understand that we are also residents of the City of Oakland Park. And we are all very concerned about making sure we balance smart growth. And to me, this is a smart growth project. I'm excited about it. I'm proud of it. I appreciate the staff and everyone who has spent tireless hours working on this project to come to this second reading. And again, one of the major things we talked about was Greenleaf Park. Why would the city take on the $75,000 to demolish Omega? Frankly, it's so we can make sure we have uninterrupted services, and we need to move. And so it's a small amount, the $75,000 to demolish, in order to make sure that we are moving forward. And all of the concerns Mr. Fisher has brought up have been heard by everyone on the dais, and we have worked with staff to make sure that our residents are heard and that we are meeting those concerns. So while I understand for some this seems like an overnight project, it absolutely is not the case. And I'm excited about it, and I know also that not everyone's going to agree on everything. But do trust that this has been well thought out, and I appreciate it, and I apologize that I'm not there in person, but I'm doing everything I can to be a part of this meeting, and I'm in favor of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. You want to go next, Commissioner Sparks? Thank you.
I always know when you start with Bolin, you start Commissioner Bolin, it comes this way. So I think Commissioner Bolin, former Mayor Bolin, Commissioner Bolin had a lot of good points there. This is, and it does, it does start bringing back memories of having these discussions. I remember having especially the tree. I did not understand why somebody wanted to save a ficus tree, but that was, I'm like, once a hurricane uproots that thing, it's going to be tilted. But I was like, it's a tree. We're going to go with it. I remember the study that was done by Ms. Heidi Brunette about the location of the library and where the users were, and it was vastly spread out throughout the city. So it wasn't just in the Corals, and we understood one of the arguments was, I can't walk to the library. Well, we walked I remember talking about, we walked the Youth Day Parade, and it really isn't that far. It centralizes that library location. So now, this is all coming back to me, and this is not a new discussion. This is something that has been going on for quite a while, and I hate 11th hour politics. I'm so surprised that this popped up like it did within like 12 hours. And I have I just checked my emails again. I have one email, and it's in favor of this. So what I'm trying to say is I don't understand. We've worked on this tirelessly, and I think that we've worked the bugs out. I'm sorry that some people feel that they were left out, but I commend Mr. Barnes for stepping forward and making the point that Copna has been involved. And I don't know what else to say other than, I don't really have any questions we've talked to the developer about this. I don't have any questions. This has come before us, so I'm just going to let the next person on the dais speak. I'll wait for a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Sparks.
Thank you.
I'll go to you, Commissioner Rosenwald, next.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate everybody who came out and spoke for and against, and for certain parts and against others. I'm going to support this item as I did last time, and I want to share why. However, a lot of the questions brought up at this meeting I do have for the developer on the next agenda item for the downtown, the actual agreement, which will relate to the shadow study, everything relating to construction. I think those are very legitimate questions, but to me they don't go on this item. I know it follows, so a lot of my questions will go to that. But I did support this one meeting ago, because this is the second time around. I do want to just say that, we appreciate people who move in to our city every day, and our city is growing. I think we're actually larger than what the census says. It says we're 44,000. I think we're more. I was part of the people knocking on the door getting the census. So I'm your neighbor. I live a block from the post office on 1353 Northeast 34th Street. That's public record. And when I moved here in 2014, there wasn't much going on. And when I moved here, and this is just me, I wanted something more to go on. And I think actually we're all in agreement with that. Everybody, I think, wants something more, but to what scope? I founded the COPNA, which Chris Fisher is now a president of, a very good president, with Jack Doran and anyway, with Jeff Barnes, who spoke, Scott Ravelli, Don Beal is still on the board here, and a few others. And let me not reference a particular person, but I was in front of here when I was probably a candidate, my first or second or third time trying to get in. But anyway, I represented the COPNA, and we had a resolution. It's not a city resolution. It was a resolution of a nonprofit board of directors. And trust me, I'm a social worker. I'm about community involvement. We had extensive, Dawn, you will remember this. You were on the board. Sorry to point you out, but you'll remember. Jack, you will remember. Jeff, yeah, and Dawn will remember. I'm a very genuine, authentic person. We had, reach out to members. No, it wasn't every resident of the Corals. There's thousands probably. But we said, what do we want this parcel to be? This parcel, this 5 or 4 acre parcel. And the resolution that the board agreed with and that the membership agreed with that we presented here, and it's on public record, and a couple years ago, it wasn't today, it was a couple years ago, and I respect that not everybody lived here at the time, I do respect that, was that we were okay to have development on like the central and western, if you will, portion of this property, but we wanted the tree. I'm not an arborist, I'm not like being paid by the ficus tree lobby or anything. This is a historic tree. Look in the books. People got married under this tree. It's a gorgeous tree. A hurricane could take it out, and it's gone. I get that. But the historic tree, some grass around it, and with the library, yes, that I think I disagreed with the commission at the time, and all the amenities for the park moving over, really the 3, the playground, the tennis courts, and the basketball courts. So that was what COPNA at the time agreed to. They did. And so we had that resolution. If I was president of COPNA now, I'm not Chris Fisher. I don't attend. I am technically, I have to actually pay my membership of $10. So all I'm saying is that we went through the not just the motions, an authentic process, and the city was largely responsive. I said a month ago, or 2 weeks ago, and somebody had quoted me on it, they said, you don't have to fight City Hall, you have to partner with City Hall, and we got largely what we wanted, except for we didn't want the library to move. I didn't want the library to move. I understand the rationale, but for a Corals resident not living in, being on the commission, you want it where it is. I get that. So you always, those who disagree with me, and I respect that, I'm still literally your neighbor. I hope we can agree to disagree. I will ask some of your important questions about construction. I do have a particular question about the shadow study, et cetera, but that's going to come into the next agenda item for the discussion. So thank you all for speaking, and I'm in support of this item. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor Gordon.
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to start by saying I was not a part of this dais when this project started discussions. However, I did come in at some point while the project was in discussion, and I'm going to say thank you to all of the residents who came out tonight to express their concerns. I just want you to know that if any of you have reached out to me in the past and I did not respond to you, for the record, I'm going to say I apologize. But to my recollection, I have not heard from anyone who's spoken tonight, maybe a couple of people, but the individuals who are concerned that the members of the dais do not care and we're not concerned about the residents. I'm going to simply say I totally feel not comfortable with that because I care. Okay, I care about what the residents say and your opinions. So I want to say that to say my background is development. There were 12 companies that there were 12 initial companies that responded to the request for a proposal. It narrowed down to 5. And finally, there was one company that was chosen. And I can certainly speak good about the company that was chosen. The company has a great reputation in the development business, and I just want you to know, residents, that we certainly care. However, when I look at the big picture and where this project is going to put the city on the map, I understand that, there's some concerns about the height, but I can tell you where height is. Height is in cities like New York City. There's no height down here in this city. 5 stories is no height. And I understand 5 stories relative to no stories certainly makes a difference. So although I understand your sentiments, and I'm concerned about the fact that, you believe or you have articulated that the members of the dais don't care, but I'm going to say we do care. But we also have to think about the growth of this city, the economic growth of this city, where we are, where we were yesterday, where we are today, and where we want to be in the future. So I'm asking you to trust the process, trust your leaders, and support us as much as possible, because we will not let you down. We've had the legal team look at all of the legal the agreements, and they have looked at all of the what ifs, and I'm feeling quite confident in where we are right now with this project. So for that reason, for all of those reasons, I'm going to say yes to this project, and thank you very much again for all of your concerns, and they certainly have been taken in consideration.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. It's been a very long night and a very long journey to get to downtown redevelopment. I served as one of the chairs of the Main Street Board when we were, right after we invested in the infrastructure on 12th Avenue. And I did receive some calls. I wasn't a commissioner, Commissioner Gordon, but I got calls that says, I don't know why you stuck all that money in the ground. It'll never produce any fruit. And it has produced fruit. And it continues to produce fruit. And I don't ever like to engage in a conversation in a defensive mode, so I'm going to stay away from that. But I can remember back 2007, it was when I was there. And just a few years before, 2005, and I carry a couple sheets of that paper, Commissioner Sparks, in a notebook that I carry with me that has this vision on it that we're talking about tonight. The downtown here and the Dixie lots are on that paper. That's was there. The late John Stunson, that was his vision. And we are proud to say that we have been afforded to be alive and to then come from that side of the microphone to this side of the desk to do what, participate and contribute what we've been afforded to contribute to this process. So yes, I am in support of this. I think the one important element here tonight is that this is not a built box. It hasn't happened yet. The designs haven't come before us yet. There could be some change of heart still on what we, and I wrote copious notes from all the speakers that came tonight to take into consideration. You have to ask. As our vice mayor said, we try to, I know we do, as a board of commissioners, to never let a question go unasked. If a resident expresses a concern, we put it back to staff. And I'm sure Ms. Frestack can nod her head and say, yes, she gets them back. So you have been heard. You have been listened to. We will look forward to the community meetings, the neighborhood participation meetings on this behalf. And so with that, we are going to say thank you again for your passionate participation, and we ask the commission for some action on this item, this ordinance on second reading. I need action, please, from the commission on this item.
Motion to approve the ordinance for purchase and sale agreement for acquisition of the downtown properties by Horizon.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rosenwald,
Yes.
Commissioner Sparks,
Yes.
Commissioner Bolin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gordon,
Yes.
Mayor Carn.
Yes. Thank you all very much.